Hello and welcome back to Rebellious Menstruation. This is a cloth pad tag. I believe this is number 5. And let's jump right in with the first question, which is what would you change about the cloth pad reusable menstrual product community? I would change the lies. To be honest, your period is not lighter or shorter when you switch to disposables. There are a lot of influences to your cycle, and generally people who switch to disposables also switch up their diet, also switch up their exercise, and on top of that, even if you don't change anything in your lifestyle or diet, your menstrual cycle will naturally evolve and change over time, depending on a variety of environmental and lifestyle factors. So just attributing changes in your cycle to reusable menstrual products is not right. The other thing is reusable products do not cure medical conditions such as endometriosis or polycystic ovary polycystic ovary syndrome. It also single-use plastic products also do not cause cancer or endometriosis either. So we don't need to lie about the reusable the single-use products either to want to make people switch to reusables. The third thing is about the lies that I'm talking about is that you do not need 15 to 20 reusable products to get through your cycle. Essentially, you need to understand your own body and what you want, and then tailor your products to your own specific circumstances. So you may only want a menstrual cup and maybe some Modibody underwear. You may only use Modibody underwear and no menstrual pads. You may only have a 3-day cycle that's really light and therefore need 10 pads. You may have a really, really heavy period and need 40 to 50 pads. And you really need to understand, your cycle. And then you need to tailor. And that's what I do love about the reusable community, is that you can tailor your products to your cycle. However, we do not need to tell people to get 20 pads and then you'll be good, because it's not really true for everybody. It certainly wasn't true for me. Question number 2 is what would you change about the mainstream single-use product community? And I would change that single-use products are normal, or the normalization of single-use disposable products. When they are in fact actually very abnormal and really have only been in production since like the 1920s, I think, and particularly from the 1930s to the 1950s, when aggressive advertising made single-use products seem like it was the better way to go and the better decision to make. The history of like menstruation or menstrual products is interesting. In and of itself, and I may actually do a separate video on that. If you want to hear that, just comment below. But essentially, women used to use a variety of old clothes, rags, paper, and organic compounds such as papaya and moss to deal with their periods. And this can also be influenced by culture and location and availability of products. And it has also been suggested that women started their periods later in life, and also finished and or went through menopause earlier, or died, and were also pregnant more often, which actually would have meant that this would have reduced the amount of menstrual cycles that they would have had, and malnutrition would have also been a factor. So it would seem that currently we have better nutrition, and we delay our birth giving or child giving, and we also have had our periods earlier. So this is probably one of the few times in history where we have regular cycles that we need to deal with. However, having said this, menstruation is not really something that's really spoken about a lot in history books. History books are really dominated by the dominant culture, and then on top of that by the dominant gender in that culture, which tends to be white men. Because, thanks patriarchy. But, so, there are obviously other complicated issues within that. And so the very first menstrual cup was painted in 1937 by Leonora Chalmers, and others followed in 1935, 1937, 1950, 1960, and 1987. The Keeper, which is a US company, became the first commercially viable cup. Not the first viable cup, but the first commercially viable cup, which is the difference. However, the use of disposable pads evolved from military applications of cloth pads, and as in like cotton cloth pads that we used against wounds rather than the pads that we use for our menstrual cycle, to stem the bleeding of injured soldiers by the nurses. And these types of products can be found as early as 1888, which was a product called Southall. And Lister towels were made by Johnson & Johnson the same year, which is 1888. So aggressive marketing campaigns by Kotex can be found by January 2021, and by the post-war 1940s, late 1940s, disposables became the predominant product. So as a result, this shifted the culture of menstrual products towards convenience and disposables. And, you know, you can hide your shame. You can hide your menstrual shame, and you can pick up pads in paper bags. You can see the ads from the 40s where you could go in and hand the chemist like a token, and they'll go get you a bag and give you a bag, and you could take the bag out so nobody knew that you had picked up a packet of Kotex and stuff like that. So there was quite an aggressive campaign to not only really be shameful of your period, but to kind of probably the first time be able to hide it much more effectively and efficiently in the purchasing of disposable products. This meant that because of this cultural shift, that disposables became the norm, and disposables became had much greater use, which meant obviously that now reusable products have become, or are now considered to be, weird and unusual and strange, and people think it's kind of back to this really old school 1800s and 1700s of women being kind of forced to use dirty rags or other products that aren't necessarily hygienic or good for you. So it also kind of went far more towards disposables being like considered hygienic and clean, even though they're not sterile and they're bleached and they have pesticides in them. It kind of meant that these ridiculous arguments about hygiene kind of came out of, or like had this cultural shift towards it. So that's what I would change about the mainstream single-use community, is essentially kind of removing their ignorance of menstrual cloth history or menstrual history, and kind of saying these are not like the rags of old. These are generally professionally sewn and much better made, and have and are much more hygienic, because single-use products are not hygienic, are not sterile, and you're essentially putting chemicals inside your body, damaging chemicals inside your body, and it's not tampons and pads seem so much more increasingly ridiculous to me now that I use this. So that's what I change. Question number 3 is, if you could choose an ambassador for menstrual health and reusable products, who would it be and why? To be honest, I would get a cohort together to promote to younger people and teenagers, including celebrities, to talk about it and promote it. So much like aggressive marketing campaigns made disposable products make sense, or makes disposable products convenient and great, I'd probably do the same thing for reusables. The thing is, in the 40s, they didn't have the type of washing machines that we have today. They had dual washing machines, and we now have. It's now convenient to use reusable products. It didn't change my life that much. Like, I literally put them in a bucket of bleach the night before I wash them, throw them in the washing machine like I would my clothes, and then it's kind of done. So it's actually not that hard to take care of them. Whereas I suppose in the 40s it would have been. So I don't have a particular person that I would get. I would want government bodies and celebrities and media to actually start pushing back against, but they're not, because the single-use industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, so I doubt the government or industry is going to get, or media is going to get involved. So I want really every young lady and every female to stand up and run a rebellion. That's what I want. Question number 4 is, what 4 pads would you take with you if you were stranded on a desert island? These are the 4 in front of you. This is a 10-inch vampire, or 11-inch vampire tee, heavy, by Bear Creates. It is cotton knit topped, Zorban flannel on the inside and in front of the back, I believe. This is my cotton knit topped flannel back, and I believe it's bamboo, organic bamboo in the middle. 10-inch by Little Mermaid by Venus pads. This is my Boo Boo Bear. It's a 12-inch heavy. It is velvet topped and fleece backed. And this is my 14-inch Blood Spatter Heavy by Bear Creates. It is cotton knit topped and fleece back. I just realised that the 4 I picked were by 2 makers, so these 2 are from Venus Pads, and these 2 are from Bear Creates. But moderate, but really I've never bled through it. Heavy. So and I've got 10-inch, 11-inch, 12-inch and 14-inch to have coverage off. So if I had to only deal with 4, I'd rather have 4 to get through my cycle. So that's what I would find. That's what I take with me. If I could only take 4 with me. And last but not least, the question is, which pad would you give away to a friend if they stated that they would only change and try if you gave them one of yours? I have a couple of destash videos, or I have a destash video up of the pads I've already given away. I had this actually exact pad in a different print. It was in like a fish print, or like swimming fish, like in an aquarium, that I gave to my sister. So Venus Pads is one of my favourite makers. This is actually one of my favourite pads, and I did purchase and give it to my sister. In my D-stash video, if you go and watch that, there are 2 pads in there. One's a Bat Cat and one is, I can't remember what the other design's called, but one's a purple Bat Cat and one is a teal Jigglypuff, I believe. Both are handmade by Hetty, who was one of my favourite makers as well, and I gave those 2 to a friend because she was a little bit reticent about trying reusable cloth products, and because she said the standard line to me, oh, but I'm heavy, and I'm like, yeah, like, you're really not. It's just that's how your body reacts to disposables. But I have actually given away my Handmade by Hetty one, 2 Handmade by Hetty ones, and essentially the twin to this one, to my sister, and yeah. So I have given 2 away. I have given D-stashes away. There is a video up on my D-stash so you can see which ones I did give away. I didn't film my last D-stashes because I gave it away in 2017, or 2018 probably. But yeah, so they were a couple of my favourite makers. I will be doing another de-stash video that's coming up, so keep an eye out for that. But that's it for this cloth pad tag. All the questions will be in the comment section below, and so if you are on YouTube and you are doing these types of videos, grab the questions and do the cloth pad tag, because this type of information, the more we talk about it and the more information that we get out there, the better it's going to be, and the more, I guess, the more information that we'll get out there and people will have. So outside of that, all the other information is down below in the comments. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.